I'll call this special meeting of the City Council for 2008's budget address to order, and I would like to welcome Father Chuck Semple from St. Michael's Parish in Sioux Falls here, who will give the invocation. And then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance immediately following the invocation. Please rise.
Good afternoon, and happy to be with you this afternoon for this invocation for the Mayor's budget address. We come to you, Lord our God, first of all, with thankful hearts this afternoon. We feel blessed to live in this city of Sioux Falls. We rejoice that we are, each of us, special to you, and that our place in history, our purpose for existing, is known within your heart since endless ages. We know, O Lord, that we all have a responsibility to keep the quality of life we are gifted with alive and well here in our city. At the same time, we are conscious that we have to use well the resources given to us so that after we depart this earth, the quality of life can continue for those who come after us. Lord, as our mayor gives his budget address this day, we are aware that our priorities are reflected in how we spend our money and the money that is under our responsibility and stewardship. Please, O Lord, may the many good needs we have to use our resources for not prevent us to forget those who are poor, who have no place to call home except under a bridge, in a park, or in a shelter. Give our honorable mayor and his city council the courage to stand firm in keeping their convictions, and also the wisdom to know when to run from dangerous temptations. Give them the courage to hold on when they need to hold on, and to let go when they need to let go. Give them the courage to avoid negative voices or the easy escape, instead of asking help from you and for those around us who care, who can help, and who can give us more courage. Finally, Lord, giver of all good things, we know there are some things that we cannot budget for, like rain. We need moisture for our land, our lakes, our rivers. Our soil is parched, and in some places our livestock are dying. We know some things are out of control of budgets and finances. We ask for much needed moisture for our gardens, crops, and livestock. May your abundant blessings rest upon us all. Amen.
We don't have to do that. Good afternoon, and thank you, Father Semple, for those special words here today. We appreciate it. And thank you for joining us here today, and welcome to the viewers on Channel 16 as well. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize our city council members that we have with us today is Gerald Benninga, Vernon Brown, Pat Costello, I think, is unable to be with us today. Bob Jameson, I think, is unable. And we have Kevin Kavanaugh, Dee Knudsen, Bob Litz, and Kermit Staggers. Thank you for all you people do and for the service to the community and for being here today. The budget that I present to you today would not be possible without the help of my city directors and their staffs. They are among the best managers you'll find anywhere. I have directed them to find ways to deliver first-class service to our citizens while keeping their budgets at a very small level of growth. They have done just that, and I look forward to sharing the results with you. In addition, you will soon see that this year our city government is changing the way we think about our budget. And I'd like to thank our directors for their willingness to work together as we strive for a greater level of accountability to our taxpayers. I'd like to start by showing you how strong our city is today. As of this month, we have officially reached a population of 150,000 people. As we look ahead, the numbers are even more encouraging. For example, by 2015, we expect to have 55,000 people, almost the size of Rapid City, all living west of Interstate 29. And our construction is far from slowing down. By mid-July, our total construction value was more than $260 million, putting us on track for another very strong year. We also continue to see impressive national recognition. For the 5th year in a row, Forbes magazine recently has named Sioux Falls the #1 small city for business and careers. And Moody gave our city a AA3 credit rating, saying we have a healthy local economy, strong supporting revenue streams, and solid reserves. But while outsiders seem to have no trouble recognizing the strong financial condition of our city, ultimately, we are accountable to our own residents. And that's why this year, and for the rest of my term, we're going to start working with our city budget in terms of performance measurements. Performance measurements is a technique that's been used around the country with very strong results. It will help us structure our budgets to make sure we're providing the service our citizens need and want. Performance management involves budgeting for outcomes, deciding what level of service we want to achieve, and then adjusting our funding accordingly. Using this system of budgeting will require a transition period, so I expect it will take several years to fully adopt this philosophy, but I know the City Council shares my commitment to this budgeting approach. Council and administrative leaders attended a national conference on this matter earlier this year and will be working collaboratively to develop an action plan to keep this process moving forward as a priority. In the 2008 budget, my goal is to explain to you the level of service we aim to provide in 4 key areas that I believe reflect the shared priorities of my administration and the City Council. They are infrastructure, meaning highways and streets, public safety, urban and economic development, and quality of life. Today, you will see a budget that addresses needs in each of these areas. You will also see a general operating budget that is balanced with revenues that match expenses. We are forecasting a total budget of $362.7 million. These funds have to support major areas, the general fund and the capital improvement program and the enterprise funds, which involve services like water, water reclamation, lights, and landfill. As you'll see, most of the growth in our nearly $363 million budget will go to fund basic services like water and streets. First, let's look at the general fund or the operating budget. This is the fund that pays for most of the city's day-to-day operations. Our general fund operating fund is $110 million. Remember, since we're planning for a balanced budget in 2008, that means both our general operating revenues and expenses equal $110 million. This is about 5% increase in expenses from 2007. Here is where we get the $110 million. More than 40% of it comes from the sales tax. In Sioux Falls, we tax 1.92 cents for every dollar spent. The first penny of that goes into the general fund. So the more people spend in Sioux Falls, the more we take in to run the city. Historically, our first penny tax revenue has grown at about 7% a year. We were fortunate last year to see an increase of more than 8%. But because we want to take a conservative approach to budgeting, we're assuming a 7% increase as we put together the 2008 budget. This would be consistent with our long-term trends. The second biggest source of revenue for the general fund is property taxes. It makes up 34% of our general operating revenues. As you know, we've enjoyed a steady, strong construction market in Sioux Falls. But just because you see homes and businesses being built, that doesn't mean the city immediately sees more property taxes. It usually takes 2 years from the time construction starts until the time we see the increase in property taxes. If you remember, 2005 was a record construction year for us. So we're now starting to see more property tax dollars coming into our general fund. But here's where the growth also starts to cost more. As more people move into the city government serves more residents. The more streets and parks we build, the more area the city has to maintain. Our new performance measurement approach to budgeting will allow us to more accurately gauge how we're keeping track with that growth. It will also help us determine the level of service our citizens expect and are willing to fund. I'm going to show you examples of those services in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at the big picture of how our general fund is spent. Remember, this is the day-to-day operating fund of the city. 39% goes to public safety. 20% goes to planning and general government. 17% goes to highways and streets. 17% goes to culture and recreation. And 7% goes to health. As you see, these expenses directly relate to the priorities we mentioned earlier: infrastructure, public safety, urban and economic development, and quality of life. Now, we'll go back to each of these areas and look at examples of what our current level of funding gives us in services. First, we'll look at the infrastructure, primarily highways and streets. As a city, we want residents to drive on safe, well-maintained streets. Recently, Allstate Insurance named Sioux Falls the safest place to drive in America for the second year in a row. But keeping our streets safe requires us to have standards. From how long it takes us to fill potholes to how long it takes us to clear snow. I'm going to show you our standards and results in each of those areas. Plus, take a look at how our growth impacts these goals. Here's a look at the streets we have to maintain in Sioux Falls. If you put each lane of each street in one row, it would stretch for about 760 miles, or about the length of time that it takes to get from Sioux Falls to Yellowstone National Park. Of course, those streets from time to time need repairs. One example is a goal we set to fix potholes. At our proposed level of funding, when a citizen reports a pothole, our crews should be able to fix it within 24 hours. We also are committed to being proactive about potholes and have asked our own staff to monitor the roads for needed improvements. Another way we can measure how we're maintaining our streets is through snow removal. At our proposed level of funding, our goal is that the city streets be cleared within 24 hours of a snowfall once we have declared a snow alert. We're able to meet this as long as continuing blizzard conditions don't require us only to plow emergency routes. Now, I want to show you how our city's growth and other costs impact our street budget. Every year, we are adding about 15 miles worth of lanes to Sioux Falls. Of course, we want these new streets to receive the same level of service that the rest of the city does. But that means a greater workload for staff, more wear and tear on equipment, and more fuel costs to run the equipment. Those realities, combined with our decision to make infrastructures a priority, have resulted in a $1.5 million increase in our highway and street budget for 2008. We're also making a greater effort to resurface streets, and we'll come back to that when we discuss the capital improvement budget. Our second key priority is funding public safety. I believe we are seeing the rewards of our commitment to supporting our police and fire departments, and we need to continue to invest in these essential services. As you can see, the majority of our police budget funds the officers themselves and their support personnel. We believe it's critical to have a strong police presence in the community, and we'll continue to monitor our staffing levels closely to ensure we're keeping pace with the city's needs. In 2005 and 2006, staffing our police department to keep pace with the needs of a growing community stabilized our calls for service. In fact, our calls for police service from 2005 to 2006 decreased by 1,100. And the number of calls held because an officer was not available to respond also decreased by about 1,000 during that same period. One way to measure how we are serving the public is to look at how long it takes for our police to respond when a citizen calls for help. Our average response time for high priority, in-progress police calls decreased in 2005 from 3 minutes and 27 seconds to 3 minutes and 13 seconds in 2006. As our department continues to implement programs to reduce the number of non-emergency calls that police respond to, we hope to reduce this average even more. Now let's look at our goals for fire rescue. On average, Sioux Falls Fire Rescue has responded to 23.3 calls per day for the last 3 years. These include emergency medical calls and hazardous response calls. But as an example, let's just look at the structure fires. On average, 166 structure fires have occurred for each of the last 3 years, resulting in a structure fire every 2.2 days. These are fire in homes, businesses, and other buildings. We aim to meet and exceed national standards for fire response. Those standards are 1 minute to leave the station once an alarm is received and 4-minute drive time to arrive at the scene. In 2006, our average response time was 3 minutes and 47 seconds, a time that was slightly higher than 2005 due to road construction. I believe both our public safety components, police and fire, are providing a high level of service to the community with their existing resources. I am recommending a $1 million increase in public safety funding for 2008. These funds reflect wage increases and support needed from the City of Sioux Falls to the reorganized Metro Communication Council, a partnership between the city and Minnehaha County. The third key budget priority I'd like to discuss is urban and economic development. One way to measure our success in this area is through the activity of our planning department. In 2006, we annexed 1,540 acres into Sioux Falls, an area nearly the size of Canton, South Dakota. While growth is primarily market-driven, we do aim to exceed our 10-year average each year in looking at the value of our building permits. Our 10-year average is $359 million, and in 2006, we hit $441 million for our second best ever year. Our Planning and Building Service Department has also set standards for how we as a city support new growth and current residents. For example, at our current level of funding, it's our goal when someone submits plans for a project, our staff will work through the permit process within 2 weeks. We've also set goals for responding to complaints about properties. If we learn of a possible code enforcement violation, we aim to assess the property within 1 working day. Another way to look at economic development is through how successful we carry out our affordable housing programs in accordance with the National Affordable Housing Act. One way to measure that is through the annual Community Assessment Report completed by HUD. HUD's report states that Sioux Falls has been meeting the primary national objective. This means we are developing viable urban communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment for people with low and moderate incomes. For example, Sioux Falls set an annual goal to help 50 households with down payment and closing costs through the Home Buyers Assistance Program. In 2006, the city assisted 58 households. The single-family housing rehab program provides financial and technical assistance to low and moderate income homeowners. They make needed repairs and improvements to their homes. Our annual goal is to assist 40 houses. We assisted 43 households. The goal for the Neighborhood Revitalization Program is to construct and sell 8 new homes per year. In 2006, we met that goal. While growth is positive as we strive for urban and economic development, growth is still costly in this area. One way to look at it is through the increased pressure it puts on our building inspectors. We completed a record of 51,000 inspections in 2006, and as new structures are added to our city, demand will continue to grow. For that reason, I am recommending a 13% increase in our building service budget next year. The final key priority is what truly sets Sioux Falls apart from other cities, and that's our quality of life. Funding quality of life can be the most difficult to measure under our new system of budgeting, but we hope to give you an idea of how we're striving to deliver important amenities to our citizens. For example, we have more than 70 parks in Sioux Falls, and as a city, we have to make sure they're beautifully maintained. To do that, we've set some high standards. All our general park area is mowed once per week. Athletic fields are mowed 2 to 3 times per week. Every day, we look for litter and pick up trash in every park. We clean every restroom at least twice per day. And we make sure our parks are safe by inspecting heavily used playground equipment every other week and inspect trails every month. Maintenance is becoming more important because more people are using the parks. In 2006, both events scheduled and park attendance are at all-time highs, with nearly 5,600 events scheduled and almost 1 million participants. More people are also using our programs. Last year, more than 30,000 residents participated in recreational programs like softball, volleyball, and kickball. This is an increase of more than 10,000 participants in 5 years, and we expect it to continue to grow. We are also committed to encouraging citizens to do their part in maintaining our green space. Project TRIM, or Tree Raising Improvement Methods, is a program that is now in its 3rd year, and I'm pleased to say that nearly 1/3 of all the street trees in Sioux Falls have been inspected for compliance with our city ordinances. More importantly, we once again can see how responsible Sioux Falls property owners really are. We are pleased to report that 96% of all compliance notices issued are remedied by the property owners. This is a program that has truly enhanced the beauty and safety of our fine city. By the end of my term, every tree in Sioux Falls will have been inspected for compliance with our vegetation ordinances. Like our city, our park system is growing. In the last 5 years, we have added 157 acres of developed parkland. Current parking planning guidelines call for the construction of a park within a half mile of each home in Sioux Falls. As you can see, We're close to meeting that standard now. This is another area where performance measurement can help us determine whether we're producing the outcomes desired by the community as it relates to new park development. Another way we maintain quality of life for residents in Sioux Falls is by helping them stay healthy. Our current funding levels allow us to inspect places like restaurants, bars, and grocery stores twice a year. We inspect hotels and motels once a year. If we receive complaints or find violations, we inspect more often. In 2006, we had 985 licensed facilities, and our health department completed more than 1,900 routine inspections, which achieved our goal. Another important service our health department provides is mosquito control. In 2005, we treated fewer than 10,000 sites for mosquitoes. In 2006, that number jumped to over 11,000 sites as we added areas in Minnehaha and Lincoln counties. As the city itself adds land, it also means more area that needs to be sprayed for mosquitoes. Growth puts pressure on our health service as well. For example, from 2004 to 2006, we gained 79 facilities that needed inspection. Our inspections related to nuisance code enforcements saw an increase of more than 1,000 inspections in just the last year. And there's increased demand at our community clinic. Our Falls Community Health Center saw more than 27,000 patient visits in 2006 for medical and dental care, a 10% growth in patients over the last 3 years. For every one new patient appointment opening in our health center, we generally have 4 people requesting the slot. In 2008, a federal grant should help us accommodate some of that increased demand. It will allow us to take on 1,800 new patients, mostly family and homeless. And the Sioux Falls School District has identified that families of 31% of our city students could benefit from this program. A final component to how we support quality life in our community is through our Siouxland library system. As the city grows, more people are using these services. There were 1.1 million visits to library locations in 2006 for a 3% increase. Library customers borrowed nearly 1.6 million items for a 6.4% increase over 2005. Children's programs were attended by 44,900 people, a 6% increase. And public computers were used more than 210,000 times for a 22% increase. At the same time, we have not increased staffing, although we will look to do so when we finish expansion of the main library. For 2008, I am proposing a 3.5% increase for the library system. This concludes our look at the general fund, which, as a reminder, comprises about 1/3 of our total budget. Before we move on to the capital improvement program and our enterprise funds, I'd like to take a moment to look at how our general fund has balanced. In the past, we've used reserves to balance the budget. I believed this was responsible spending because it was used to add staffing, and we needed to provide services to the citizens. Between 2002 and the end of 2005, we used about $3 million in reserve funds. But I'm pleased to report that at the end of 2006, we ended with a surplus of about $3.5 million, bringing our reserve levels back up. As I said earlier, in our 2008 budget, revenues match expenses. This will leave us with just over 26% in reserves. But it's also important to forecast the reserve fund over time so that we continue to meet the reserve funding goal of 25% established by the Council. During our department operating budget presentations next month, you will see forecasts that show we must take a conservative approach to spending over the next several years if we are to maintain that 25% level. This philosophy also impacts how we decide to add city staff. In order to meet the Council's goal of 25% reserve funding level, I am proposing only adding positions in 2008 that are revenue neutral. In other words, only those positions that bring in funds to offset their expenses. This means I will recommend adding 1 fire inspector and 1 residential building inspector. These are positions that will be funded through the inspection fees. I am also including a nurse and medical assistant who will work with our low-income families and homeless population. These positions will be funded through a federal grant received by our health department. And finally, we will add 3 positions at the Sioux Falls landfill that are funded by landfill fees. I thought it might be helpful to look at how our staffing levels compare to the population of our city. This chart shows the number of city staff per 10,000 Sioux Falls residents. As you can see, it has been dropping over time. In future budgets, we will need to look at adjusting staffing levels in some areas of the city. I would like to work with the City Council to develop a broad policy guideline for how our staffing level should relate to the growth of our population. This would focus on all areas of the city and would be a tool we can use in deciding whether to add staff in future years. Now, we'll move into the Capital Improvement Program, or the CIP. This budget is funded by the remainder of our city's sales tax, or 0.92 cents for every dollar spent. Again, we are forecasting an increase of 7% in the sales tax for 2008, which is in line with historical growth. This budget also reflects our priorities. You can see from this chart that 53% goes to public works, 15% goes to parks, 19% goes toward paying off debt, 9% goes to new equipment, and the remaining 4% goes to other departments. Again, this shows that infrastructure is a priority, meaning our highways and streets. We use the CIP to improve and build streets. Here's a percentage of the breakdown of where those funds go. Almost 48% goes to resurfacing existing streets. 33% goes to build new streets. And nearly 19% goes to expand existing streets and make changes to improve safety and traffic flow. With our current CIP level funding, we aim to resurface a street on average once every 14 years. Keep in mind, some main roads are done more often, and neighborhood streets that aren't as highly trafficked might be less often. Another way we take care of our city's basic needs is through our enterprise funds: water, water reclamation, lights, and landfill. Each of these funds is run like a small business. Residents pay for what they use, and those fees are set to cover the cost of providing the service. The 2008 budget includes an additional $7 million for these basic services, paid through rate adjustments to the enterprise fund. And I'd like to thank the City Council for supporting these changes earlier this year. As you'll remember, another priority is our quality of life. This is why parks receive a percentage of our capital improvement budget. In 2008, that number is 15%, and it includes funding that is balanced between building new parks and making improvements to existing parks like Falls and McKinnon Park. Green Hills and Thielen Parks will be the newest addition to our park system in northwest Sioux Falls in 2008. Another large portion of our CIP goes toward managing our city's debt. We dedicated more than $11 million worth of sales tax in 2008 toward managing our debt. This includes our law enforcement center and the storm drainage improvements. As Moody affirmed, we continue to maintain a responsible level of debt, primarily issuing it to expand services that we feel future users should help to pay for. Like any business, we're always focusing on ways we can do more with the resources available to us. I am impressed with the innovative and creative approaches our departments have found to be more efficient. For example, we manage 3 fueling sites in order to purchase and deliver over 1 million gallons of fuel to city government vehicles. To increase the savings to those customers, fleet and purchasing now contract for large volumes of fuel, resulting in a net cost reduction. The savings is then passed on to other departments in the form of reduced fuel cost. We also created 4 snow dump sites to shorten drive times and conserve fuel. And we changed the summer work schedules to 10 hours to conserve fuel and complete tasks on a more timely basis. Another way we're trying to be more efficient is in managing health and wellness, because like any other business, we're seeing the impact of rising healthcare costs. Healthcare costs for active employees and retirees continue to make up an increasing portion of city expenses. Maintaining or minimizing rising costs requires a highly coordinated and dedicated effort, not only by those responsible for administrating health benefits, but from all of our employees. Wellness programs and initiatives are an effective approach to manage and reduce costs, as well as a tool to prevent illness and help employees adopt healthy lifestyles. The city began its wellness initiative with the introduction of the Healthy Lifestyle Screening Program a number of years ago. The program has evolved into a screening program today that rewards employees who maintain or improve in 7 different health risk factors with monetary incentive rebates. In addition, the introduction of the Stepping Up Health, a 10,000 step program in 2005, encouraged employees to get out and walk, and the Great Scale Back in 2006 organized employees into competing teams to lose weight. 186 employees lost 1,202 pounds in that competition. In 2007, the city implemented a disease management program and introduced the 2007 Wellness Initiative. The key to success in managing health and wellness is focusing on getting employees to take an interest in their own health and welfare. Later this year, we'll be dedicating resources from the Health Internal Service Fund to hire a wellness and fitness coordinator to develop a more comprehensive managed wellness initiative that teaches city employees and retirees how to prevent illness and help them to adopt and practice healthy lifestyles. According to a 2005 study, for every $1 spent on preventive services and health promotion, employees can realize a $3 return on investment in the form of lower medical costs, less sick and disability leave, and higher productivity. Although we have been able to manage rising costs, we believe that this is an investment we cannot ignore. Common sense tells us that healthy employees are more productive, use fewer health care services, and enjoy higher morale. We will be working on establishing and monitoring return on investment measurements to improve our wellness program. Our goal is to achieve cost savings, or at least minimize rising health care costs. While those initiatives are larger in scale, We're also asking our city employees to always look for small ways to do business more efficiently. They add up to make a big difference in our budget. For example, we started purchasing salt and liquid for streets during the off-season to take advantage of better pricing. At times, we now lease equipment rather than buy it. We've also looked at how our departments can work more closely together to combine our employees and their skills. This has been a great help in areas like snow removal, street and park maintenance, and neighborhood conservation. And we've started to sell surplus vehicles online through an auction site, which allows for more competition and brought in $90,000 last year. Over the course of the next several weeks, I would ask the City Council to review in detail these budget proposals. We are required to adopt a budget by September 30th. I also encourage all Sioux Falls residents to participate in this important process, either by attending the budget hearings or by watching them at home on Channel 16. I want to thank you for your attention this afternoon and look forward to working with all of you as we approve next year's budget. Thank you very much.